Hi, Richard here, your crazy Austrian engineer, and today it's time to create some automation. Together we will learn the basics in the world of Loxone, in my opinion, the world-leading smart home company. It is industry quality, made for professionals, designed in Austria, manufactured in Europe, and the best part, it covers every single topic you can imagine. Lighting, klima, shading, alarm, energy management, pool, garden watering, you name it, they got it. Here is a link to an overview of all the features available. Everything is around the green little guy here, the brain of the whole system, the Loxone mini server. It is available in different sizes and options. This one is the mini server compact, mainly used for new buildings, put into the electrical cabinet. Then there is the normal mini server, simply bigger in size with more in and outputs. And there is a wireless version, the mini server Go, as well. All of them have the exact same software functionality, it's just the difference between in and outputs. Forget about those parts for a second. To wake him up, we need a 24-volt power supply, which I have here from Meanwell. This one is powered with 230 volts in my case here, and then there is the 24 output. Next we have the LAN connection for the mini server to be connected to the internet, so also remotely you can use the app to control your home, but also locally. And that's it. Now to set it up and program it, all we have to do is put our laptop in the same Wi-Fi as the LAN cable goes to the router, or in my case, the PC is with LAN on the same switch as this guy here. If you are at the building site with no local network available, you can also use a direct connection with the LAN cable from the server to your laptop. So let's check out how hard it is to program. The first thing we're gonna do is download the free Loxone software we need for programming the so-called config. There is a Loxone app as well, which you can download for iOS, for Android, but also for Windows. So you can have on your Windows laptop or PC also the app available. Please note that this is only available for Windows, and if you're a Mac user, then you need, for example, Parallels to run a Windows on your Mac. I believe in you that you're able to download, install, and open it. For privacy of my customers, I blur out the project names and addresses here. But depending on how much you work with it, you see you will have all the projects here in the project overview list. And I work a lot with it. Now we have a few options. We could connect to our mini server. If we go to local search, then you see all the mini servers I have in my local network, which I blur out for security reasons here as well. And then I have here my mini server compact in the list. If I do so, and I connect with the credentials, the standard user and password are both admin, if you didn't change it, which you should obviously. And if you connect to a system, it will automatically load what's already programmed in there. So this would make sense if you continue working on a project, or maybe you have Loxone at home and you want to adjust it, then you can load out what's inside so you're synchronized. If you don't have a mini server yet and you still would like to test some stuff, then you could go to New Project, choose the mini server you would like to have, let's say in our case the compact, and say done. Then we have an empty program with nothing inside here. Grab some energy drink or coffee of your choice, because now there is lots of information which I will blast at you. Let's go, man. Let's say we are not connected to the mini server because maybe you don't have one. Doesn't matter, we can also start programming and then later connect and save what we programmed into an existing system. First, quality of life thing, depending on your language, you might be able to change it here to France, Italian, Italiano, my name is Riccardo. So there is lots of translations available. I think you can also choose it when you install the software. Just note that if you change it now to German, you have to close it and open it again for the change to apply. Next, the whole system, the whole software is built in a way which is intuitive if you know the basics. So the top bar here changes depending on where you click in the periphery tree. If you would like to create some rooms, you click first on the rooms here, then you find the icon on top here, and then you will be able to add, for example, here, Richard's office, okay, room type and so on. More details on that in future videos. And then you have the room created. Same with users, categories. When you click on the mini server here, which has no title yet, we can do this in a second as well, then you will be able to add certain extensions, which are modules to expand the system. I could, for example, add a relay extension to have 14 more outputs with 16 ampere. Also, you can configure the device, change the IP address, set it on static, put it on DHCP, so on and so on. As I already worked on a few hundred projects myself, I use the software every day, almost every day. I will just show you what's most efficient to me. First, here is the project name. I will call the project YouTube Training. Then you will find a few settings here on the left side as well. One interesting one to me is the autosave, which I put typically to 60 seconds. And after the 60 seconds, a pop-up comes where you save the file locally. This is then like an Excel spreadsheet, which is locally saved, and you can always open it again. You can also send this local file from one PC to another and open or work with your colleague or with the end customer or whatever on another PC. Then you might change the units for elevation from meter to foot and from Celsius to Fahrenheit and so on. The currency here is pounds. I could change it back to euros. I changed it to English UK, I believe. That's why it could be English US as well. Then I have the author, which here is Richard. Then I could add my telephone number, my email, my website if I'm a professional, and the end customer will then see my contact details in his app. Then we have the customer details, which are important. So I say this guy is called Johnny Loxville. And most importantly, here is the address. So I put my postal code and address and stuff inside here. And then I can determine the geo-coordinates automatically if my PC has an internet connection. So if I'm on a building site with no internet, then I have to do this later from home. And then I can double check this as well. That's where I am. That's important because based on this, it will calculate the sunrise, the sunset, the sun direction, because it makes a difference if I'm here in Austria or if I'm in America or anywhere else, right? As you see, if I click on the periphery tree, it could be, if I open it up here, the room Richard's office, that at one point or another, the properties on the left side open up here as well. Yeah? I could change the icon now for Richard's room here to something like study or office, here like this, okay? And then it has the correct icon. If I click on the mini server here, I see the name is untitled. I could call it mini server compact YouTube. The local address and stuff I would change once I'm connected. And that's basically it. Then we can create our pages, our programming pages, which I typically name after the rooms. Let's say living room. And one important thing is here, the default room should be living room as well. This was a bit confusing to me in the first place because I named it already living room. Why the heck should I put the default room here as well? Because the rooms are here. So the living room as a programmed static item is here. And if I do not assign the room here, let's say not assigned again, and I just call it living room, and now here I start adding my first function block, programming block, let's say a button, a switch button, and I add it to the room. Then you will see if I click on it, I have properties. I can rename the function block. I can call this one ceiling light, for instance. But still, it has no room assigned because this page is just called living room by myself, but it could have a typing mistake. living room. So this is just the page, what it's called. But the assigned default room, if I change it to living room, I cannot mistype it here because it's one of these items here. If I delete it and I add it again, button, switch, and once I place it, so once I left click, it automatically takes the default room which is assigned to this page. Hope that's clear. So we call this ceiling light. And we change the category from controls on the left side here to lighting. Then the color changes and also the icon changes. Next, we would like to use one of the relays here from the compact. It has two to control a light. So we open it here and we call it ceiling light. Maybe we call it 230 volts, so it's clear to you. Then we drag and drop it onto the page. By the way, you can use the control key and mouse wheel to zoom in and out. Now, we would like to connect this relay to the lamp. So that's done by just going with the mouse over either the output of the function block or the relay here on this small arrow thing here, and then click and hold to create a connection. But where the hell to connect it in the first place? Sorry guys. The function block switch is super simple, but super versatile on the same side. That's why I'd like to start with it. The first thing, if you face a new function block, is that you can go with the mouse over the inputs and outputs and you will see a text. On input switches the output on. Off, same for off. Toggle switches the output on or off. So this would be like a remote of the TV, where you just have one button to turn it on and off. But you could use two buttons, one for on and a dedicated one for off as well. Then on the output, it's pretty clear. It's just the output. This can be a lamp, this can be a logic, but in our case, it's the relay of the ceiling lamp. Next, we would like to put a push button to the system. Therefore, we have 24 volt inputs, so we could use any push button from different brands, from Gira, from whatever locally available on your side. But it's important that it's not high voltage, but 24 volt DC. The wiring would be like this. We have here the 24 volt for the mini server compact, the clamp, if you remember, the orange and white one. Let's use another color for the minus here as well. So that's our mini server. Then we would have here a push button, which is simply connected like this. And if we press it, it closes here. So what we need is to have the 24 volt of the power supply connected to the push button. And this push button then is connected on the first digital input here of our mini server. And for the compact, we have 4 available. As always, we could expand the in and outputs by adding extensions, but more on that later. If we wired it properly, we could call this living room light switch or whatever makes you understand what exactly it is. Then we can drag and drop it on the page, and as you see, the input automatically takes the room from it, same as the relay, but you see we did not assign a category yet, also not for the relay, so let's do this here. We say both of it is lighting, and if you do this all nice and properly, then you have the option later to print out the system or the project, and you know exactly if you wire it later, then you know, okay, relay number 1, ceiling light 230, living room, category lighting. Same as for here the input, living room, light switch, here category lighting as well. So invest this time, trust me, it's worth it. Then we say we would like to use this input on the toggle, and now this push button should turn on and off our light. We did not connect to the server yet, but still you have the option on top here, testing, start simulation, or press the button F7. Then you see we have here a button to press. So now we press the switch and now it turns on. We can also change the behavior of this input from a switch in the simulation to a push button, because the hardware itself would be a push button. As long as we press it, the signal goes through. It's not a switch in the hardware, this one here. So as long as we press it and hold it, the signal goes through. And as you see, we toggle here the output, indicated both with the on text here and also the yellow flag here on the relay output. So without having a single component, without investing a single buck in the system yet, you can play around, test function blocks, check it out, and so on. Sadly, we cannot create the visualization without the mini server. That's why at this point I will connect to my mini server. You can say here, connect and search. Then you find the list again. I select my mini server compact, put my user credentials here and connect to the system. Now I am connected here locally. And one big thing to understand is that nothing you program while being connected is live. You have two buttons on top here, save in the mini server and load from the mini server. And only if you press save, then all you programmed here is transferred to the mini server and it will restart with this new programming that we just saved in. Also, if I would now load out from the mini server, it would put the program inside of it onto my PC, and what we just did here would be lost. So take care here. This loadout I would typically do if I connect on a client system before I do some changes, load out everything so I have the most recent version of the client. Because if I saved it in last time 2 months ago and the client changed lighting scenes on the app, changed and adjusted the temperatures on his rooms, feng shuied the whole house for hours, and then I would save an old file on top of it, all these changes would be gone. So if you do something on an existing system, I would always first load out and then do adjustments. But in our case, we don't care what's on the mini server right now, so we save in for the first time. Then we are asked or forced to change the password. I will do this. And we say apply. And then we have a problem because the serial number of our project we just created does not match with the hardware which is over there. Which is true because our demo project does not have a serial number yet. So if we proceed with saving, it will just take the serial number here of the hardware we just connected to. And now we can connect either with the Loxone app, here you see my house by the way, but also we can just connect here in the testing tab, web interface, connect with local address, and then it opens up a browser where I can connect with my just changed user credentials. Now you will see some text here is in German, and that's because the operating system of my PC is set to German. And Loxone doesn't like to translate thousands of words for their versions, so they use certain words like Monday, Tuesday, and so on from the local operation system. So if you maybe have an Arabic or whatever language on your phone, or Chinese, and there is no Chinese Loxone software, you can maybe still put it to English, and certain or maybe most of the words are still taken from Chinese, Arabic, whatever, from your operating system. Sorry for these videos, I will not install Windows in English now. But you see down there we have certain tabs like favorites, central, rooms, and categories. I can select rooms and now we'll find our living room. And in here I find category lighting and the ceiling light function block, which I can now turn on and off. And I already hear back there on the desk the relay clicking. So all we just did, just guys, okay, wait. All we did is we created a function block, called it ceiling light, assigned it to the living room, category lighting, we connected an input, we connected an output, and this single function block creates the whole visualization, what you see here. Isn't that great? Isn't that crazy? And now I can use the app to turn it on and off. I could also use the first input 24 volt to turn it on and off. Also, it synchronizes, so if I press the button physically, the push button, I would see the live status of the app, right? I can maybe show you. If we now go to the testing category, and we don't use the simulation, but we use the live view here, and if we click this little arrow, we can start the live view with manual value adjustment here. Then I see the live status of the thing. And if I now make this a little smaller here, then you see if I turn it on in the app, I see in the software, in the config also live how it turns on. If I use the live view with manual value change, how should I do this now? I fake the input, then I can also see how the light changes here, but also I can see in the app that the light is turned on by the push button here. I'm super glad that you made it so far. I would really appreciate if you consider subscribing the channel, giving it a like, maybe dropping down a comment below. I would be interested from which country you're watching this video. You can also ask your questions down there and I will answer all of the comments. And now let's go back to the table and wire a real light and also a push button and the motion sensor. Let's go. Now I will show you the electrical wiring. But please guys, take care. Electrical work is super dangerous. You might have different local laws in your country, and in general, working on electrical systems should only be done by professionals. It's definitely not worth risking your life if you don't know what you're doing. First, ignore the Loxone manufactured motion sensor and push button. We do this later. Let's focus on the lamp itself. Here I have my 230 volt high power coming from a simple socket here. This is powering my power supply 24 volt to keep the mini server alive. And the same 230 volt is now used for the lamp. This is a normal LED lighting bulb. 230 volt. In Austria, the neutral is blue and the face is either black or brown. You have to know that these relays are potentially free. So whatever you put inside here, this can be 230 volt, this can be 110 volt, this can be 12 volt for a doorbell, DC, AC, doesn't matter. There is only a limitation in ampere. The mini server compact has 16 amps, the normal mini server 10 amps, relay extension 16 amps again. And if the logic, what we just programmed, tells to close this relay, then it's always the left side is the input and the right side here is the output. So there are 4 screws, 4 connection points, but it's 2 relays. So I have the 230 permanent power connected here from this cable. Maybe you can also see the light here. So there is power. Here there is not. But once I tell the system in the app we just programmed to close the circuit, then we see the light turning on. So this relay is closed and the 230 go through and go out here to the light. Please note, and this might differ to your country again, I have an RCD unit here and the certain breakers. And typically, I would say the living room sockets is 1 breaker for just the sockets. And then there's maybe another one for just the light. So I use all the inputs of the relays for all the living room circuits. Maybe there is 1 ceiling light, there is a wall lamp, there is maybe a shading. So everything related to the living room, I use the dedicated living room breaker to go to the relays inputs. Typically, I put everything regarding the living room one after another. Then I can bridge the input from the relay to the next, to the next, to the next. So now we can control the light with the app. If I would wire now a 24 volt button on the input, we could also use this one. But what I would like to show you now is the Loxone devices, both a switch and also a presence sensor on Loxone's so-called tree bus system. And the cool part is, compared to the normal switches where you would have to wire each switch 24 volt input, for each switch a dedicated cable, living room, kitchen, cable, lots of cables. Instead, here we have a bus system, so we can wire one device to the next, to the next, to the next, either in daisy chain, one to the next, but also at any place we can make a tree topology. So here we could, for example, go with 4 cables if it's easier in the installation, 4 cables to different devices, and then we go here to the next one. So everything is allowed. The only thing which is not allowed is if we would create a ring, a circle, but anything else is allowed. On one tree branch, we can wire up to 50 devices, which is quite a lot. In the planning, I typically go for 30, and then I use another module, an extension, a tree extension with 2 more tree branches, so it would be 150 in total. So fully scalable. So all we need is 4 wires for 24 plus and minus, and tree green, tree white. Typically, we use cat cables with 8 wires, but you could also go for KNX cables with 4 wires. But Loxone offers a unique tree cable as well. In addition to the 4 core, we have 2 bigger plus and minus cables in the same one for higher loads like Loxone spots, Loxone light fittings, but that's a topic for another video. Let's now pair the sensors that we got here in the config. As we said, it's a tree product, motion sensor and push button. So we go on the mini server compact, open it if it's closed, and then we find on the tree branch already 2 devices. So if we click on it, because we want to do a tree search, and as you remember, click on the periphery tree, whatever you want to do. So then I see the tree search dialog up here. And now I find my motion sensor and my touch. You also see the serial number here of these devices, so I could go with this, but it's even better and easier. If you select the push button, and you might find in a new building that we just installed, you might find 50 of them and another 30 motion sensors. So what you do, either you go to the push button and you click on it, so you see which one it was. Also, if the motion sensor detects you, so if you're alone at the site and you go with your laptop, Wi-Fi connected in the config, you go through the rooms and you simply click the touches and you know which one shines up, also for the motion sensors. But also if you just select them, it will start to click. So you hear it acoustically. For the motion sensor, you click on it and you also see it starts flashing rapidly. If you select it in the software, it both starts to identify acoustically, but also here with the orientation light starts flashing. Same for the presence sensor. This one starts flashing like crazy. So that's super easy to identify. You don't need the serial numbers, they're super fast. And then we just assign it to the room, living room. We could give it a name. I typically only do it if there is multiple sensors in a room, where I could say this motion sensor is in the kitchen area. For the push buttons, one is at the entrance door, the other one is at the couch if I want to have different functions on the switches. You will see in the next few videos. Next, the touch, it automatically takes the last room. Okay, I go to the plus icon. Now I see those devices have appeared here, and to finish it up, I have to save in a mini server, so it restarts with the recent programming. After saving and restarting, you see there is a green icon now indicating the status is online. Let's check the motion sensor first. You see there is a plus icon, so we can open it and we will see both a motion and a brightness. We can put both of them on the page. And please note that I have the old sensor here connected. In the recent version, it's no longer a motion sensor, but a presence sensor, which also has an acoustic detection. So if you're sitting still, laying on the couch, watching TV, so there is no motion. With the old version or third-party motion sensors, the light might turn off while you're still there. The recent version tracks the decibel, the acoustic level in the room. It's not a microphone. And then it will expand the presence as long as there is TV running, people talking, or something else. If we save in the mini server, again, after we put them on the page, we can start the live view and we see here live values of the sensor. So there's 49 lux from the brightness sensor, and if I run over there again, you will see the motion sensor turning on. This motion signal will now be on for a certain period of time. This video feels already super long, so I will not go into all of the details, but if you click on the motion sensor, we see the properties here, and we can see the overrun duration following motion being 60 what? Seconds, minutes, hours, I don't know. If you click on the 60 here, you will see down there overrun duration following motion in seconds. So for 60 seconds after the last motion being detected, you see now it's gone. For the push button, we have a little more. We have temperature, humidity, and also we have a T5, whatever that is, and we have a backlight, an orientation light inside of the switch that looks like a relay that can be also put on a switch or whatever logic. If we save here and start the live view, we see the temperature here is 19.1 degree, the humidity is 49%, and this T5 strange thing shows 00000. Let me explain this to you. The button has 5 inputs. If I start the live view again, I can go in here or also in the simulation, click on the 3 dots, and then I can simulate the 5 buttons. So each corner is an input and the one in the middle. We'll talk about the Loxone standard configuration in the following videos, but typically the middle one, the big area, is used for lighting. And if I click it, you can see here, this digit, the middle one, is turning 1. It's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I know this question. I did trainings at Loxone. Every training I held, there was the question, yeah, but can I do it differently than the Loxone standard? Of course. You click on the touch button and you can show all the 5 inputs individually. And now you can put all of them on the page. If you shift, click, then you select multiple inputs. And then you have all of them individually. If I save again and I start the live view and I press like here, then you see the third one going 1. Here, 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 here. You see? That's possible. But why does Loxone have this strange number of digits here? It's simply because in the standard function, lighting is always here. Shading is always up, down. Music is volume up, volume down, double click, change the music source, double click, turn the music off, and so on. We will figure that all out in the future videos, so consider subscribing. And now there is dedicated function blocks like the one we will use now. If you already know what you search, you can use F5 to be super fast, and then you can search for switch button, and then you can add it here on the page. Super fast. You can say, I need an AND function block, this and that, or not this input, and you're super fast programming. And we need a lighting controller next. And the lighting controller, compared to the simple switch we used up here, is that the lighting controller offers way more functionality for motion sensors, brightness input, multiple lighting circuits, because here it's like on-off for one light. You could use both relays on it, and once it turns on, both the relays turn on. But typically you would like to be able to switch the wall lamp independently of the ceiling lamp, because if not, then you would have wired it in one loop and not have 2 dedicated cables back to the mini server. That's why I quickly introduce this block to you. There will be a following video just covering this function block. The German version took me 1 hour to explain 80% of the functions of it. Stay tuned for this. Here we have different lighting circuits, and with the plus icon here, you can always open and add in and outputs which are not shown by default. So if you just check the inputs of the block, here is parameters that can be changed with logic, and here is the inputs. There is a lot. So there is lots of functionality. To keep it super simple, we have the lighting circuits. So we disconnect it from the switch block here. We also disconnect or delete our digital input. And we just use the lighting circuit, the ceiling light, on the lighting circuit 1. Then we use the touch backlight, the orientation light, on the output 2. We have the motion sensor, so there might be an input for motion sensor as well. Yes, here it is. Then we can connect it to it. What about the brightness sensor? It's super nice that we have a dedicated brightness input and just a motion signal. If you know the normal motion sensors with the screws on the back where you can say the time and at which brightness level it should switch, this makes sense for wiring a lamp directly to it so it doesn't turn on during the day. But for Loxone, it's interesting to have a motion signal independent from the brightness. Because if we use the motion sensor to turn on the music in the next few videos, then we would only turn on the music if it's dark. Or if we use it for alarm, a normal motion sensor with the screws, then during day there wouldn't be a motion signal coming out. So the intruder wouldn't be detected. That's why it's super nice at Loxone to have dedicated brightness and motion inputs. So the function block offers a brightness input as well. It's already displayed. So we connect it here. And then we connect the T5, which I showed you first, the one with the digits here, and connect it to the T5 input of the lighting controller. And what happens now is that the lighting controller, if I stop the live view and go to simulation, if I now click the light input here, the lights turn on. If I click any other input, the lighting controller doesn't care because he only listens to this input here in the middle, the third one, the lighting one in Loxone Standard. So if you go for the Standard, you never have to think about, wow, which of these 5 inputs do I have to connect to the function block? For the music, it was number 2 and number 4, and for the shading, it's 1 and 5, and how does Loxone count again? Yeah, it's just easier to keep T5 on T5, and the function block knows, okay, I only listen to the one in the middle. Let's save this in the mini server to check out the visualization here. Then I see this function block, lighting controller, creates this part of the visualization. And now you see I have lighting scenes, especially if you have multiple outputs, like a wall lamp, maybe a dimmable light, a dining lamp, ceiling lamp, whatever. You can have different lighting scenes. For example, a lighting scene for cooking, a lighting scene dining, reading, watching TV, and depending on your mood or on your lighting scene, you can say, while watching TV, I would like to have just the orientation light of the touch active and not the ceiling light. And then I save this as a new mood called TV. Then I can change the order of those moods. There could be TV first, then comes bright, then comes off. And then I can go through these moods. And I can also go on the push button here, either if I go back there or in the live view with manual value change, I can go to the lighting input and you see I switch through my lighting scenes. I can also indicate the current lighting scene here with the output. Now it's off, now it's scene 1, and the bright scene has the ID 99. More on that in another video. Let me just show you if I click the touch. Then you also saw the outputs change here. So that was the first Loxone basic video. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments, your questions as well. And stay tuned for the next video. See you then, your crazy Austrian automation engineer.